4 minutes. So the council meeting for Monday, February 5th, our work session is called to order. Ms. Rainey, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Honorable Mayor,
Good
council
evening.
members, and Mr. Clark. This is the roll call for the work session, February 5th, 2024. Mayor Butler,
Present.
Councilmember James,
Present.
Councilmember Anton,
Everybody, how's everybody doing?
Councilmember Gutierrez, Councilmember Akins Wells,
Yeah.
Councilmember Mears,
Here.
Mayor Butler, you have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you so much. The adoption of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion on this item?
Approved.
That was Councilwoman James. Is there a second?
A second.
That was Councilman Mears. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. New business, council discussion and approval on a Black History Program, background in history. In an effort to celebrate Black History Month, Councilwoman James has requested a discussion of a potential partnership with Talitha Patton. The proposed production will feature actors, dancers, singers, and visual arts entitled The Journey. So Councilwoman James, you have the floor.
Okay, I was hoping she was telling me she was parking. She has not stepped in yet, Madam Mayor.
You
can
want to
we
get back
come
to it?
the-
Absolutely. Item 2, council discussion and approval on the GMA pension plan, background and history. As part of the city manager's citywide employee evaluation, a large percentage of employees stated that they would like to see a pension plan implemented. At current, the city only offers a 457 and 401 plan. A qualified retirement plan can help our organization look more attractive to qualified employees. Finding quality employees can be a challenge today, especially in a job when a job seeker, is considering multiple job offers. Offering a retirement plan is a benefit most job seekers consider and ultimately can be a determining factor in their decision-making process. The city manager is now ready to present the first full read of the proposed pension plan for input from the governing body. Not only can retirement plans help you attract new employees, they can also help you retain those most valuable to our city's success. Keeping good employees lowers our turnover costs and help our business function more efficiently. And Mr. Clark?
Yes,
you have the
ma'am.
floor.
Governing body members, we are super excited to present the first read of the pension plan. As you know, in April or March of last year, we issued out a citywide survey. And the number one thing, resounding thing that we heard from our employees was that they were interested in participating or being allowed to participate in some form of a pension plan. In the state of Georgia, especially with the Georgia Municipal Association, the most commonly used plan is that through the Georgia Municipal Employees Benefit System. We are honored to have tonight Michelle Warner. I believe I saw Michelle, sitting right behind our attorney to go over that plan offering that we've came up with, and then share some additional insight with our governing body, and then allow for questions. So again, this was only a first read. We're seeking input from the governing body so that we have time to go back based upon some of the commentary at this meeting tonight, and then allow additional time for us to finalize plan documents for implementation if approved in July of this year. So again, this is just the first read, just to get some feedback from our governing body members. So Mayor Butler, if you will, we have Ms. Michelle, who's done these plans all over the state of Georgia on behalf of the Georgia Municipal Association. I'll let her go through the plan that we are currently looking at, and then I'll follow up the rear with just some additional questions that came up from employees and the answers that were provided.
All right, good evening.
Thank you, thank you. So the plan that we developed a cost study for involves pension plans have a lot of different things. They're not as straightforward as a 401k, but basically normal retirement age was set at 65 with 5 years of service. City officials would retire at 65 also. You don't have to retire at those ages, by the way. You can continue to work and serve and whatever, but those are the earliest. Then there's also an early retirement option at age 55 with 5 years of service. Now, this is a reduced benefit. It would be reduced for each of those 5 years they retired early. Now, if they retired 1 year early, it's not as big of a reduction as retiring 5 years early, but it's an actuarial reduction based on the fact that they'll get those payments for 10 additional years. The benefit formula includes a 2.5% benefit multiplier. The multiplier is set by the employer, and the formula for determining benefits is service worked with the city here, with the employer, times the final average earnings, which is an average of the 5 highest paid consecutive years of service, multiplied by that multiplier. So it's 2.5% times years of service times earnings. And that develops the annual benefit, divide by 12, and you get a monthly benefit. So 2.5%, if you think about it this way, if somebody had 10 years of service, they would get 25% of their earnings in retirement. For every additional year of service, you earn another 2.5% of that final average earnings. Vesting would be 100% after 5 years. And let me just also state, a lot of the things I'm mentioning here are up for discussion. These aren't set in stone. They're not necessarily GMA rules or anything. There's a lot of things that are flexible. City manager and department heads would have immediate vesting as well as officials. There is a death benefit in the plan in case somebody were to pass away before ever drawing their retirement. And that's for term vested people as well as actives. We did have two different scenarios, one with a disability retirement option, one without. So you've got two different costs here of whether you want to add that or not. The disability retirement kicks in when somebody is approved for Social Security disability. So we're not going to pay out the benefit here until Social Security does. But the whole point is that their benefit is not reduced no matter what age they are. No cost of living increase. Prior service would only count for vesting and benefit eligibility. So again, I mentioned a 5-year vesting. If you had somebody enter into this plan that already had 5 years here, they would be immediately vested. And I know that was one of your questions, but if the concern is, are they going to just retire right away? They haven't accrued any benefit. So they have to be in the plan to accrue benefit. So that 5 years is not 5 years of service for calculation. It's just 5 years to help them for the vesting, since they've worked here all that time. I think that's about it. As far as explaining the plan. Do you want me to follow up with something else right now? I did want to talk about, because you mentioned first read. Now, we would have to develop the plan documents. They are an ordinance, so you would need to have 2 readings of an ordinance. If you need 2 readings, depends on your charter. Sorry about that. So, but it does need to be approved in the same way as an ordinance. This plan is well documented. The overall GMEB system is well documented in state law. They gave us General Assembly gave GMA the right to provide these plans. So there's a lot of, it's in the state law as well. And that's why it has to be an ordinance. But what questions do you have?
Mayor Butler, if you would, one of the questions that I have for the elected body that I don't think we covered was the in-service distribution.
Thank you. That is not something that affects the cost study, so it wasn't part of the cost study, but it was something you asked me about, and it's certainly something that we could put in there.
Got it. And so what that means is effectively, or I'll let the expert explain.
What it means in service distribution, and we were talking about elected officials, many of our plans have in-service distribution for elected officials, where if you become retirement eligible while serving, then you can start drawing your benefit while you're still serving. But when you re-retire, or when you retire and you actually leave service, your benefit may not increase. So that's the thing you're going to miss out on by taking it early. You may not get credit for additional years of service. There's an actuarial offset applied to the new benefit calculation. I don't want to bore everybody in this room with that right now. We can always flesh that out later. But it is very possible that, it's not a big deal to have that in-service distribution put into the plan.
The other thing that I think has been a hot topic is just the difference in what we currently offer. So at current, for our DB plan, the city matches 1%, or there's a mandatory 1% match, and then the city matches up to, I believe, 10% based upon a said formula. If we decided to go with this plan, it would be a staff recommendation that we don't do both.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we would never be able to afford both, as this plan is richer. So for the benefit of the employee, if you are an employee in this city that has never changed your percentage from the 1% that is mandated, and the only thing you're receiving is that 1% match, when it comes time for you to retire, that is all the money that you'll have. Which is not a lot. I think in me touring around the city, I know that was a major concern for fire. With some of the employees in fire, if they haven't made the right appropriations to carry them on for their legacy years of life, then the only money they'll have to live for in that retirement is that money that was put into that plan. Whereas with this plan, first for the employees that have already vested with another municipality, because this is one of the greatest hiring incentive tools that you can use, as well as retention, I'm sorry. For those employees that have worked in other cities and vested, then those years of services can be ported over to this plan. And for some, it's automatic vesting, depending on those groups that Michelle mentioned earlier. So when you do the average of your last 5 years' work, that number based upon a formula at 2.5% is your retirement for in perpetuity, as well as your beneficiaries benefit from it the same. So we feel this is just a great tool, but we did send out to our directors to get some input from employees, governing body members, and I thought some of the questions were very well. And so, Mayor Butler, if you would like, I can read off some of those questions
Okay.
as well as the answers provided. So the first one was, will we be allowed to buy back any time for previous years of service? And so Ms. Warner and I talked about this along with Director Brown when we first started this study. And we can add a service purchase window to the plan document if we choose. So Michelle, will you speak a little bit more about what that entails?
When we, just for example, we brought in a city maybe 6, 7 years ago into the system, and they were like you, had a 401 type of plan. And what we did for them was we opened up a window of opportunity. We don't want service purchases coming all throughout the year because it's disruptive. So we ask you to have a window, and it generally we've looked at 2 months. And what this city did was they did 2 windows. They did 1 window the first year and another window the second year. And then GMA does the service purchase calculation to see how much it would cost that person to purchase the service. And then they can choose at that time whether they actually want to buy the service or not. The reason for the 2 windows was just because if it's not so affordable the first year, maybe you save up money during the second year and you buy it the second year. Now, what else? Mr. Clark had also asked about 401 money versus 457 money, or pre-tax and after-tax money is how I broke it up. If it's after-tax money, if they're going to pay for it out of their own checking account, so to speak, they have to be in the plan for at least 5 years, and they can only purchase 5 years of service. If it's 457 money or 401 pre-tax money, then they don't have to have been in the plan for any amount of time, so they can purchase service right away with that money by rolling it over into the plan.
And just to close that, the fee for the calculation that the actuary will have to do, that fee is borne on the city, correct?
It
Or do the
is,
employees?
yes. And you're welcome to pass it on, though, to your employees if you want to.
Yeah.
But it would be invoiced to the city. And it's sort of a funny thing because he'll charge one amount for 2 service purchases that'll charge for 10 of them. So depending on how many you submit at the time is really, it's not going to be incremental cost, basically, is what I'm saying.
And that answers 2 of the additional questions, relative employees question, if they'd be able to buy back some of the years, because of course, there's never been a true defined pension plan like this in the city. And also just who pays for it. The next question was, how long will someone have to how long will someone have to buy back? The time we talked about that, we would establish what those windows are. Will people have the option of staying in the old plan and still get the city's contribution of 5% if they do not participate in the new plan? We can allow participants to make a one-time irrevocable decision on what plan they wish to continue in. However, there's no way that we can fund both financially. There's just no way. You wouldn't do that.
And this pension plan is very generous. You don't need to have both plans funded at that point, yeah.
Because essentially, even though the overall cost is more, you're getting more of a benefit with this pension and more
It's really
money.
not that much more. I
Right.
mean, you guys are paying a maximum of 5%, right, on your 401k. I mean, this plan costs 6%.
Yeah.
So it's really not that much. And it's a lot of peace of mind because again, once you develop this, once the formula calculates the benefit, the retiree knows they're going to get that every month for the rest of their life. They don't have to try to work with a big pot of money and stretch it out.
All right, the next question, what are the early retirement options, if any? They understand that the plan's full retirement age is 65. How early can someone draw and what is the penalty for it? The city, we requested an early benefit at age of 55 with 5 years of service, and that's early retirement period. All right, so that means 55 years of age plus 5 years of service, you're automatically able to draw down that retiree benefit.
But it will be a reduced benefit for each year early that they drew it.
Correct. The next question was, is there any cost that the employee is having to invest? One of the decisions that this governing body will need to make is if we are funding the plan 100%, or if we're going to look at whatever that said number ends up being annually for the 1% that we contribute for the match, if we're going to turn that cost over to the employee and remove them. Let me say that a different way. One of the ways that we can accomplish it is the required 1% that the employees are already having deducted from their check. We could say, instead of us funding the 457, that 1% that's required, that cost will then go to pay for or assist with payment of said plan that we're proposing now. If that makes
And
sense.
in that circumstance, this is costing you exactly what it costs you right now for your 401. Because right now, people are paying 1% and you're paying 5%. If you applied that same thing to this plan, it'd be paid for, so.
Yeah, does that make sense? So essentially, we're doing the same thing with a greater benefit. We're just shifting the cost of the plan that we're funding. I want to say that annual amount would be,
The dollar amount,
uh-huh.
it was, with the disability, it was 925,000.
And I would have to get the number of what our annual payment for Empower is. But I want to say it's somewhere,
That is correct, because not everybody may be participating, but I mean, are you guys still paying 4%? What do you pay nothing if they don't contribute at all?
everybody has to contribute.
Oh, they have to put in one.
Everybody has to contribute.
Okay, gotcha. And then you match after
Correct.
that. So not everybody may be matching. So,
Right.
right, in that sense, this plan could cost you more money.
Right.
But at least everybody would have a retirement benefit. And then you don't run into the issue of people getting, diminished productivity, as they get older, working into their 60s and 70s, maybe, this way, like you said, I mean, with the 401, they're just kind of, that's what they've got. And when they retire and they have to make it last.
The next question was, what happens in a few years if the city decides to stop participating in the retirement plan? How does it affect anyone who is retired or those who have not yet but were close to retirement? The city would still have to make contributions for any future benefits, but we can freeze the plan whenever we like. That means no future benefits will accrue in the plan. Michelle, will you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways that you can manage that process. If you, start the plan, number one, you can always make adjustments to the plan, you could make it less generous, you can make it more generous, that kind of thing. So if it was just a matter of trying to cut the costs a little bit, you could always kind of play around with it. Or if you decided that you just wanted to freeze it, you could freeze it just for new hires. Whereas everybody that's currently, in the plan stays in the plan and continues to accrue benefits, and just new hires would do something else. Or you can freeze it all together, for all future accruals, and then you'd need to place everybody into some other kind of vehicle, but you could stop accruals. The thing is, this 925,000 that I'm talking about paying, that's an amortized amount over the full accrued liability. So, freezing the plan on, February 5th doesn't mean February 6th, you're not going to pay any more money to it. You still need to work towards funding those benefits, but it certainly would, if you're not accruing any more benefit, that kind of stops the accrual.
And the likelihood of that, based upon our research, the 457 plan with Empower has been there for in perpetuity. It's been a budgeted expense annually. So I don't see any reason why this governing body, if we're switching just from one plan to the other one, would switch the vehicle. And then the final two, The proposal shows prior service applies for vesting and eligibility. So that would mean those over 5 years of service meet age requirements and are eligible to retire after implementation of the plan. Michelle, will you go a little bit deeper into?
Right, right. So again, you don't want to necessarily, people that have already been here for 5 years, participating in the 401, just because you're moving them into the pension doesn't necessarily mean that you want them to have to work another 5 years to be vested in it. I mean, they've already put in the service. However, the day that this plan opens, yeah, you might have some people that are immediately vested, but they've got no benefit. They've accrued no benefit. None of their previous years will go into the benefit calculation unless they purchase it themselves through the service purchase window. So somebody that might retire after a week of opening this plan, they got a week's worth of benefit, which is pretty much nothing. And I think I gave you that example, like a year, somebody making 50,000 a year in the plan would still only get them $100 a month in retirement. So you see, just because you're letting them retire immediately, they still have to accrue a benefit to make it significant.
And then the final point, Mayor Butler and governing body members, was, are there any specific provisions for public safety? At this time, as Michelle stated, there can always be a series of changes to this plan. However, at current, through payroll deductions, all of our public safety employees participate with the state officers, peace officers annuity and benefit fund, and the Georgia Fireman Pensions Fund. It's an automatic deduction out of their check. Again, there were no additional provisions in the Empire Plan, and we're not recommending any at this time for this plan, but there are. Every city, once they launch a plan, every year there are opportunities for you to add to, take away from, make your plan richer. And I think the last city that was onboarded in Clayton County was the city of Riverdale.
Yes, they started a plan January 1. Mhm.
In an effort to ensure that we are very competitive in this city, our plan
Yeah.
closely aligns and is even richer than what.
It does. They have a 2.5% benefit multiplier as well. So their people are accruing a benefit at the same rate that this plan is suggesting.
And again, that confirms, or that concludes all of the inquiries that we've had. And I think with the questions, it just gets the conversation started
Mhm.
in helping our employees to understand what this plan is, because it is important to their future. And, in listening to some of the feedback from our employees, it's a sad day for those individuals that didn't realize that by the time they get to retirement age, the only benefit they have is what has been placed into that pension plan.
Right, if they were putting anything at all, for sure. And so then back to the question of whether people choose to, because obviously I think the plan is, if you were to implement this pension plan, it would just be for, it would be for new hires and anybody who opted into it, right, from the 401 that they currently have, if that's the way that you choose to go. We would recommend that you provide some sort of education to your employees if they're going to make that choice, kind of education on what these two different plans mean. And GMA wouldn't want to be the ones to do it because we might be biased. So, an independent finance person could come in and help your people with those decisions. But we would kind of put out like another window of, you have 2 or 3 months or whatever to opt in or opt out or whatever. And then the ones that opted in could then purchase service.
One of the final questions, Michelle, as it relates to health benefits at retirement age. I know especially for teachers around the state, when they retire, they carry some level of health insurance. Are there any plans under GMEBS that carry the health insurance?
That is a separate policy. We do have some cities that have retirement plans with us that also offer what is called OPEB benefits, other post-employment benefits, health insurance. But that would be your own individual, that would be a whole separate plan. It's not included in our retirement plan. But I worked for a city where we had that kind of setup, and we had a separate policy for how we wanted to determine how much of the health benefit people would get. Now, if you are looking at wanting to offer those type of benefits and you want some assistance, GMA does have a program for OPEB benefits where you can join the program because that requires an annual valuation, just like the retirement plan does. So if you join our program, you can get discounted rates on valuations. You can also start a trust fund with us, but that's not required. It's required for the retirement plan. But the health insurance plan, you could either set up a trust fund to try to grow the money through investment earnings so that you're not paying 100% of the thing, or you could do a pay as you go and just pay the benefits as you go. But that would be some kind of further discussion with our life and health people and that kind of stuff.
Mayor Butler, that concludes all of the feedback.
Very exciting. Thank you. Councilwoman James.
Thank you so much for the information. So a couple of questions I have, just so that I'm clear, 100% of our employees are able to participate in this plan.
I think they'd have to work 30 hours. Is that what you decided? Of course, you can decide whatever you want, but we do an eligibility thing of who's going to participate, how many hours a week do they have to work in order to participate. Some of our cities do 30 hours because it kind of hooks up with ACA, where it's like, the full-time benefits package of health insurance and retirement. Even if you don't hire people in at 30 hours, that's what the ACA is. Or some cities have 40 hours. We still have cities that have 20 hours for eligibility. So that's up to you all.
Okay, and then how long, or is there a timeline that requires an employee to opt in? So say it's 30 hours, I don't know, I'm just saying hypothetical. If 100% of our 30-hour plus employees are offered, do they have a timeline when they have to opt in to participate?
No, they start accruing benefits on day one. There's no waiting period, and it's mandatory participation for those that qualify under those eligibility rules, whatever you decide.
So the qualifying is based on length of service? Length of time, or what's
Qualifying for retirement or qualifying for participation?
for participation?
It's based on how many hours they work a week.
So
And that'll
that's
be
the-
defined in the plan, and it's up to you all. This is what I was saying about the 30 hours versus 40 hours versus whatever. You can make it whatever you want. 40 hours would actually, even 30 hours would capture your police and fire as well, because, when you average everything out, they're working those many hours. I mean, not every week they do because of their shifts, but they would all be included in that. But it would be up to you all how, if you wanted. We don't term part-time and full-time, but that's what you're getting at, is whether part-time people would participate as well. But that's totally up to you all. I don't think we costed it out based on part-time people, though.
And not all employees have to participate.
No, it is mandatory.
It is mandatory. So if there is a, let's say 1% requirement, then every eligible employee will have to contribute at 1%.
But I think that's what you're doing now. Is that right?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
1%, people are required to participate right now at 1%.
That's not 100% of the employees.
Well, everybody, I'll ask, if you don't mind, either Director Brown or Ms. Diane, if the pair of you can come to the podium and respond to what that eligibility looks like at current.
Good evening. Currently, everybody is required to participate at least 1% in the plan, and the city matches 0.5% of that weekly contribution. It's 50 cents on a dollar up to 10%. That's the easiest way to, I used to always say 0.5% up to 10%, but it's 50 cents on a dollar up to 10% of your weekly match.
And I think we had great.
Full time, yeah.
Yeah, full-time, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't do part-times in that plan, and we recommend the same for this one.
Right.
So overwhelmingly, the employees were in favor of this, you're saying?
I think we have a large amount of employees here. I think
Okay.
if we take a show of hands of how many of our employees wish to see a pension plan, I think they'll. A lot of it has been public safety. It's been public safety that has been pushing for it as an incentive, because they know you can port those hours. I mean, depending on where you work, if you come up under a plan. Yeah.
Mhm.
You have many cities in this area that participate in this program, Mara.
Okay, thank you.
Now,
That's all.
there are some plans that do not contribute to Social Security or something like that.
Right. Just implemented a 3%. They just implemented a 3% benefit multiplier for their public safety, but it's because they don't participate in Social Security. So, and I worked for a city like that myself. We did not participate in Social Security and we had a 3% benefit multiplier to make up for that.
Because at the end, you could be in the hole. Which-
Right, right. I mean, and the reason I only bring it up because I heard it all the time down in Chatham County, you know, Tybee people telling their powers that be, oh, Pooler gets 3%, you know, well, there's a reason for that. You know, not everybody needs that high of a benefit multiplier.
Councilman Swan?
Very informative. Question, we do Social Security here, right?
I think so, but,
Thought- We do, yes? Okay, thank you. That's what I had.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yeah, that's my mic. Okay, there it is. First off, thank you for the presentation. My question was, you mentioned that, it could be changed. Is there any type of, I guess, every year it can be changed? Let's say 10 years from now, there's a new governing body, and they decide to freeze it or to change. It won't affect the past people. It would only.
right, you can't do anything to take anything away that somebody's already earned. So like, for example, if you had this 2.5% benefit multiplier and the plan was open for 10 years, you couldn't then say, you know what, we want to change it to 2 and we're going to apply it to all those 10 years. You can't do it backwards like that, but you could do it forward. You could say, well, we're going to lower it to 2% for all service going forward, but anything already earned, you can't take away.
Perfect. And that can happen every year. It's not like every 5 years.
I don't recommend it, but yeah, you can change the plan.
Okay.
It gets very confusing when people do too many amendments to their plan
For
because
sure.
the plan that dictates your own benefit is going to be the one that was in existence when you terminated employment. So then if you change it every year, your HR staff's going to be like, hey, when did this person terminate? What plan are they covered under? I would just recommend you be very thoughtful about that. But yes, you can absolutely. We do that all the time. We make plan changes for cities all the time.
Okay. And then I guess my next, request would be from you, city manager, is I know that it seems like everybody wants or is in favor of this, but I would like, like yourself being a data-driven person, having some type of survey that gives us the input from the employees. I read, crazy enough, I read today that it said like 80% of Americans are not, they lack the knowledge, of retirement. And sometimes it can be overwhelming when you have a lot of options. And I think as elected officials here, we have a big responsibility to our citizens and, to our employees as well to make these decisions. And I know it's tough sometimes within our community to talk about money, because those are personal things. But I think I've said this before, but when I was in college, I used to work for Bank of America, and I'll never forget older people walking in there with their Social Security check, and it'd be like they just got it 3 days ago and have to live the rest of the month with $200 or $100. So I definitely, take pride in our employees here, and if we can make a difference, for sure. I'm in favor of this, however it is that we fix it up. But I would like to have that data where it's led by, the employees, and this is their preference of a retirement plan city manager. And
Councilman
that's it.
Gutierrez, if you give me 2 minutes, I can pull up that survey for you right now. I already have it.
So, but this was a question in the survey?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay.
Both surveys. So we already have that data as well as open-ended feedback. One of the things that, again, I operate off of those benchmarks and the data. That's how we start to create our KPIs for the organization. And so I actually have that right now,
Perfect.
if you would like to see it.
Yes.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I just want to make sure that we are showing everybody that this is based off what our employees are asking for. Threw me off. You said if you'd like to see it. I don't know what was going on. I know what you were talking about. So, because you have a whole bunch of snacks over there. The people can't see it, but I can see all those chips. But anyway, well, we're about to see the data. Sorry, I think Latrice's next.
You think? So while he's pulling that up, Councilwoman Wells, you have any questions or comments?
I would just like to say thank you. I know this is something that, we've spoken about for a long time now. And again, I can't thank our city manager enough for coming in and not actually talking about it, but being about it. So I would just like to say thank you so much.
Councilman Mears?
Thank you for the presentation. There's a lot to consider. I'm sure I'll go along with the majority of the council. And it sounds like a good plan, provided that everybody in the city wants it. Be a good.
Is this not a conflict of interest on him because he can retire or no?
Councilman Gutierrez?
Me?
Yeah,
What you say?
I said you,
It's
it's-
irrelevant.
I'm just playing. I called you old, Mears. I'm sorry. I love you, man.
Looking at her.
He wasn't looking at me, Mears. He
Yeah, yeah, he's still pulling it.
And so Councilman Gutierrez, to your point, so, and I'm gonna show you this raw, this data, these survey results that I'm about to show you have not been scripted. This is the input from our employees. We can't tell you the names of who it was because we don't know, because we wanted our employees to have an open opportunity to share with their administration what's working in the organization and what is not working. And so as you can see, when we first did this survey back in, Director Brown, I believe this was April of last year. So I believe it's paramount for us to start here. And you can see our completion rate back in April, we had 192 responses from our employees. And so I'll start here. Directors, I apologize if something is on this survey, because again, it was open-ended. I'm afraid of what I'm about to say. And so you'll see this is risky.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here.
So of course, compensation, everybody in the world, including myself, all of the employees want more money.
Good in himself.
Uh-oh. Total benefits package, healthcare. I am satisfied with the retirement plan offered by my organization. You can see 22% of the employees that completed this survey were not satisfied. 22 strongly disagreed and 33 disagreed, that they are not excited about the retirement plan. Of course, we provide a safe workplace. And I think, I am afraid to go to the bottom of this page. And so one of the questions that was asked at the end of the survey, and again, this was when I was new, I've been here 3 weeks. If you had 10 minutes with the city manager to discuss things that you think he should address, what would you say? Morale in our workplace, retirement, adequate pay for outside jobs. A GMA retirement plan would be a big draw and a dramatic step forward for the city. There are other issues that can stand improvement, but I feel that this is worth the conversation. Rate of pay. I'm trying to only read the ones where I see the word retirement.
Pension.
Or pension. This is FMLA. What is your management style, equipment, pay, all good, nothing?
So, Mr. Clark, just a quick question. Was there a question that actually asked about a pension plan?
I mean, it
It's-
talked about the retirement. Now, we drill down on the next one, but what I'm trying to show you, the reason why this came out the way that it did is because after these employees completed this survey, we all gathered in one room and went over every survey result. And overwhelmingly, the number one thing that we've heard is pension. And I think we have our employees here, so that I'm not swimming along. I think they can share with you. That's been the number one concern. And so our major issue has been the retirement. Well, that's empower. But just for the sake of time, I'm gonna move on to show you the new survey results, which had even more responses than that one. And this survey was just completed. It was due January 31st, 2024. So keep in mind some of the feedback that you saw from the first one to now. And again, this one had a participation rate, 217 employees out of 200 and 270 employees completed this survey. Now, this survey, we added in some more things, like we had the LEAF initiative that this governing body gave authorization to move forward. So we had some questions on this survey about the hybrid work schedule, mental health, just things that we added in addition to the LEAF initiative. Compensation, supervisor, hybrid. So you see, again, we get back to the retirement question. 39 employees strongly disagree with the retirement plan that we're currently offering, and 48 employees disagree with it. 61 employees didn't want to even answer the question.
They want more money, I think.
But I'll get down to where our employees, and I'm happy that you asked this question because it lets our employees know that the information that they share, good or bad, is shared with the governing body members.
And then you're reading it.
I read every last one, even the one that said I was crazy. All right, so you can see I'm satisfied with the changes, need new equipment, bigger team bonding, better communication. So it's interesting just to see the change of where the results were when we did the survey to the feedback that we're getting now. Communication among leadership is improving, but you still have that retirement coming back up even in this survey. Structure being introduced again, progressive, more things are coming. Communication has improved. I've seen the city manager more this year than I ever have in the previous 25 years.
Oh, wow.
I had to read that one, shameless plug. I feel like the department is going in the right direction. It gives younger officers plenty of career opportunities. Once the right supervisors are in place. Chief B. Chris, progress headed in a good direction. There's some specific about pension in here, but it's a lot of responses. Improvement in communication from HR throughout each respective department, overall morale, pension, it continues to come up. Leadership and vision. Somebody said they haven't noticed any major improvement. I don't know, Councilman Gutierrez.
We get it, Ricky. I don't know if you were there for me. I got you, bro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got the.
You satisfied?
But again, we're joined tonight by a large contingent of our employees just to show how important this is to them.
All right, thank you very much. Item 3, council discussion and approval of the comprehensive classification analysis and compensation study. Background and history. As part of the strategic objectives discussed in the fiscal year 23 budget cycle, the executive offices have properly bid out and are ready to award a contract for the comprehensive classification analysis and compensation study as we continue to strive to provide exemplary service to the community by being a model for the 21st century government. We recognize the importance of our workforce of dedicated and talented professional staff. We are seeking approval to move forward with awarding the contract to Gallagher. After a review of the committee and recommendation of our procurement officer, we feel this is the best choice for the city. Gallagher has worked with several communities our size and larger and provided the most responsive document for the RFP. In addition, they have established a timeline that provides for the compensation study to be completed before the budget cycle is done. Staff is seeking for approval of an amount not to exceed $85,000. Is anyone from Gallagher present?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you have the floor.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor Butler. Council members, as I've shared with you over the course of now 5-6 months, one of the things we needed to do in an effort to get equity amongst the organization as it relates to compensation, there needed to be a survey done, a study done rather, of all compensations around this city. One of the most daunting things that we found is the inequity in some of the salaries around this system based upon what the positions actually do. And in order to not add more to the compression or the parity that we found with some of these salaries, We issued an RFP and we are now ready to move forward with selecting Gallagher for an amount not to exceed $85,000 to move forward in this effort. There were 5 companies, I believe, that bid on this, but in review of those proposals, one of which was the company that did the salary survey here before, but the information that the city gathered just wasn't comprehensive enough for the city to move forward with it. Gallagher has years and years of experience in these comprehensive studies for employers. So we're seeking authorization to move forward so that we can get this study complete, so that we're able to bring that information and that data to you before budget time this year.
Thank you. Councilwoman James. Councilman Antoine.
No question. Thank you, sir.
Councilman Gutierrez.
questions.
Councilwoman Wells.
Yeah, well, not a question, just a statement. Like, when it comes to the, and you already heard me say it before, like, I trust your opinion and your decision, but I still would like to see the information in front of me to make sure I know what I'm supporting.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Councilman Mears.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. And so we're going to go back to item number 1. Ms. Patton has arrived. So Ms. Patton, you have the floor, ma'am. So
So-
this is the discussion on the Black History Program.
So, Madam Mayor, if I may, I'll start out. Thank you, Ms. Patton, for being here. As you all know, we have not had a Black History program, kind of like sponsored by the City of Forest Park. And so I do have some leftover money from my senior caravan that we allocated to the activities. So I met Ms. Patton, and I want her to share the Black History program of what she wants to present. I want to do it here in the City of Forest Park. And we're working with either doing it at Paradise Church or in the rec center, but we're having difficulties with the availability. And so that's why we may move it to the Paradise Church, which is in Ward 1. But it will be open to the Forest Park residents. So, Ms. Patton, if you would just explain what the program is and what it entails.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so grateful that I met you. I'm new here to Georgia somewhat, maybe 5 years. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. And as you know, there's a lot of history with Birmingham, coined Birmingham, Alabama. So with this production, where the 4 little girls were bombed in Birmingham, Alabama, in the church, I'm sorry. But with this production, I had seen so many Black history productions done over and over and over so many times. And I would sit there and I'm like, man, I could write this. I'm an actress. I've been acting professionally since I was 10 years old. And I'm like, it's so predictable. I will never put away the history because I'm proud of the history, and you have to know your history or you are doomed to repeat it. But the way they were doing the productions over and over, it was just obvious. So I said, somebody needs to do something and have a different angle with it. And I said, well, I'm tired of saying somebody needs to be me, then I guess I'll do that. And I sat there and I wrote it one day. It was like a spiritual thing. I wrote this, and then I took it around to my acting mentors and asked them, what do they think about it? Their honest opinion. They loved it. But I didn't put it on until I moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, where I was on the Performing Arts and Cultural Awareness and Diversity Board there. So I ended up doing this production the first time I did it all by myself, and they loved it. And then they asked me to do it again. So I did it again. And what happens is it's called The Journey. It takes you on a journey as a curator in a museum would be, taking you to different spots, showing you, oh, this is the era and this is the period and this. So my curator is like a host, and she takes you on that journey. She sets the scenes for you. What she does is we take you on a journey from Africa, the beginning. You'll see queens come out on the stage. I'm sorry, before you see the queens, I don't know if I should tell the whole show. Should I tell the whole show? Okay.
The whole show.
Okay, so you'll have queens, you'll have the beginning, you'll have the middle passage, you'll have slaves, you'll see like an auction block. It's different things, it's different time periods up until present day. And we take you on that journey through acting, through singing, through dancing, through poetry, through visual arts as well as there's a surprise at the end. I don't want to tell it all.
Don't tell it. Don't tell it. Okay.
But it is a wonderful play, and I'm not saying it because I wrote it. It really gives me chills. When we talk about our African history, or Black history, it should be so much more deeper than a song or just music. We have to go deeper. It has to be meatier. And it's very important for our youth, especially, to know our history. I found a lot of our youth really don't know our history. Even when I auditioned people in their 20s, they didn't know who Nikki Giovanni was. They didn't know who Maya Angelou was. And I was kind of shocked about that, but it's a lot of it isn't being told, or they're just not aware of it, or it seems like it's not important to them, and it's very important. So with this, the journey, it takes you there. You feel it, you see it, and it's just very important, and I'm very passionate about it. So I'm very thankful that you all gave me the opportunity to present it, and I'm excited to do that. I would love to make it an annual thing even.
So, council, what I'm asking is that you allow, the funds that I had allocated to the senior caravan, which we've already done, and I didn't use any of the funds pretty much for it, to be moved into the, not the senior caravan, I'm sorry, the homecoming parade, to be moved into, a budget line item for the journey.
Thank you. Councilman Antoine,
I don't have no problem with that.
Councilman Gutierrez.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, Councilwoman James, and I'm really happy that you're bringing something like this to our city. Thank you, ma'am, for considering us. I had spoken to our city manager, earlier this month, I think, about like what, why weren't we doing anything or what was happening? And I know a lot of times we throw, a lot of events here in the city, but I think it's very important that we celebrate our history. And just thank you. I'm really excited to look at this. And Councilwoman, I would even offer, to allocate some money towards that from the council so we can have it. And definitely a line item. It was one of the subjects that I was going to bring up, to have, a celebration in February every year. The thing, it's just really cold outside, so we would have, definitely in our gym. But
Right.
yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
Councilwoman Wells.
Yes, I think it's a great idea, but I don't think you had to get our approval for that. That's your money. You could do what you want to do with it. But thank you for
In
coming.
full transparency, I just wanted, because it was a budgeted line item defined as a certain thing, I wanted to make sure I brought it to the council.
thank you.
Mr. Clark's, direction to be full for transparency and bring it before the council.
So I want to clarify, so Mr. James did insist that just go to Councilman, for Councilman Gutierrez to do what he just did, but nonetheless, one of the things is just streamlining what that budget process is, and one of the things I've shared, as long as it's your defined budget, you can move your money wherever you want to. This one is more or less, we're changing a line item name from one line item that the council approved to another line item name. So just in the spirit of, it's more than just moving your own money, it's changing the entire line item name for a Black History program. So that was why we did it.
Okay.
Yes.
Councilman
Thank you,
Mears.
Councilwoman James, for bringing this forward, and thank you for coming and, wanting to bring this to the city of Forest Park. I think. it's
Thank
great.
you.
And whatever I can do to assist, I will as well.
Thank you.
Councilman Mears.
Yes, ma'am. I'm for whatever the council thinks we need to do.
So-
How much would you need?
So we're still working on other donors. We had a verbal commitment, I believe. Oh, where did she go? Miss Patton. We had a verbal commitment, I believe, from one of our senators. Right? We had a verbal commitment. So we're still trying to find all the funds.
I'm sorry, yes, Senator Elena Parent, and also Mr. Baskin.
Okay.
Commissioner, yes.
Perfect. So we're trying to not have the city have the whole burden of the expense, but I think we can make this happen.
Excellent.
And-
Thank
and
you.
An update, so we have decided to go ahead and move it from the community center to Paradise Cultural Center, because we have to access the stage. We have to do blocking and all of these things. So we have to be able to be on the stage. So that's that's the final. And that'll be on the 20th.
If I think it was.
That's the.
So it'll be a Sunday, right?
Mhm,
A
that's the
Sunday, a Sunday afternoon show.
Mhm.
So we'll get all the details to everyone. But I'm excited.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I can sit down.
Item 4, council discussion and approval of lobbyist service Capri and Clay Inc., background and history. Since 2016, Clayton County municipalities have engaged with Capri and Clay LLC for lobbyist services to ensure that all entities received a fair share of funding from the lost FAA fuel tax. Staff is seeking approval to continue to participate. The funding for said lobbyist services is shared amongst Clayton County municipalities, Clayton County Board of Commissioners, and the Clayton County School Board. Our share of the city, for the city of Forest Park, is 5.86%, which equates monthly to $205.10. Mr. Clark?
Yes, ma'am. This is pretty self-explanatory. The only reason I spread this on this agenda was so that it was spread upon the minutes. Our annual appropriation for this continued service is less than $1,000 a year. Again, this has been a concerted effort by and between Clayton County municipalities, including Clayton County government and Clayton County Public Schools, as we continue the fight on the federal level to be made whole for the loss of that jet fuel tax. This has been going on now for at least 5 or 6 years, I believe, at a minimum. Actually, we have our former representative, Valencia Stovall, who I remember worked tirelessly on this effort. But again, we are just trying to continue that engagement with the lobbyists that we pay every month. And these services are actually paid. Capri and Clay, we actually pay them through through Denmark law firm.
Denmark Ashby.
I couldn't get it.
Questions or comments? Councilwoman James?
No question.
Councilman Antoine?
No brainer.
Councilman Gutierrez? Councilwoman Wells?
No.
And Councilman Mears?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Council discussion and approval of the service agreement with Georgia Power to install the lighting on the new welcome signs. Background and history. The city has completed the construction of the welcome signs. The original design for the monument signs did not include lights, for the signs. The new welcome signs are the first interaction that visitors have with our community and the first impression visitors will have of our city. The new signs are incredibly impactful on visitors entering our community, and lighting the signs would have a greater impact at night. Staff is seeking approval to move forward with a service agreement with Georgia Power to install and maintain lighting for the new welcome signs. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members.
Evening.
Staff is seeking approval to move forward with a service agreement for Georgia Power. We have 4 monument signs, 2 on Forest Parkway, 1 on Dixie Highway, and 1 on Jonesboro Road. The signs look nice, look good in the daytime. They'll look even better at night lit. So we're asking the council for approval to enter into an agreement with Georgia Power to install and maintain the lights.
Thank you. Councilwoman James? Councilman Antoine?
No brainer.
Councilman Gutierrez? Councilwoman Wells?
Is there a cost? to-
Yes, the cost is an upfront fee of $12,680 and $172 per month.
And the money is coming from a savings from when we did the installation for the
It's
money.
coming out of the 2015 SPOS.
Councilman Mears?
Well, ma'am, no questions.
All right, thank you, sir. Council discussion and approval of a software with OpenGov/CareSoft. Background and history. In alignment with the ongoing efforts to propel the city of Forest Park forward through the digitization strategy presented in the fiscal year 23-24 financial budget hearing, the Department of Finance seeks council approval to adopt OpenGov, a robust financial reporting and procurement solutions. The primary objective of this initiative is to leverage OpenGov to enhance collaboration between city departments, improve visibility throughout the budget and procurement processes, and facilitate as the city continues to grow and success. The adoption of OpenGov represents a significant step toward the city of Forest Park's commitment to digital transformation. It promises to enhance collaboration, streamline processes, and provide transparency to both internal and external stakeholders, contributing to the continued growth and success of our community. We look forward to the council's support in moving this initiative forward. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Even,
Just to piggyback on what the mayor was saying about OpenGov, it's gonna provide, it's gonna provide three benefits for us: efficiency, transparency, and strategic alignment. And with those benefits, it's definitely gonna help not just the finance department, but the whole city as well. In this case, Department of Finance, we recommend the mayor and council, you approve the adoption of this OpenGov as a financial reporting and procurement tool platform for us. And like the mayor has mentioned before, it's in line with the digitization strategic outline for the budget going forward.
Thank you very much, sir. Councilwoman James?
No questions.
Councilman Antoine?
no.
Councilman Gutierrez? Councilwoman Wells? And Councilman Mears?
No.
All right, thank you. Item 7, council discussion and approval on the use of drones for the police department. Background and history. Drones have proven to be valuable assets in enhancing police operations and bolstering public safety. Their ability to offer real-time surveillance, collect vital evidence, and access inaccessible areas makes them invaluable tools in combating crime. Drone as first responder boasts numerous advantages, including decreased response time and heightened security for both law enforcement officers and communities. When a 911 call is received, a trained officer can deploy a drone to the emergency site while patrol cars are en route, ensuring swift and efficient responses even before officers arrive on the scene. The justice forfeiture account will be utilized to cover the annual cost of $80,000 for the 3-year contract. You have the floor, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
So drone first responders is something that we're going to see a lot more of around the country. This would be the first agency in Clayton County to deploy if approved. So if you could kind of imagine this, a 911 call comes in, 911, Forest Park 911, what is your emergency? And as that call is coming in, our officers are able to hear it real time and also have a location. Officers who will be sitting in the real-time crime center will be able to push a button and deploy a drone to the actual incident location in a matter of minutes. I'm sorry, in less than a minute for the most part in the city. It is, I understand we're close to the airport, so there will be guidelines and things in place to make sure that we're in compliance with the FAA. But the drone will arrive on scene in under a minute and also give the officers an overlook of what's to come. It will allow officers to determine if they need to slow their response. So it's an added benefit to the safety of the citizens as well as the officer. But also, it would also give us the information if we need to deploy additional resources. So if you look at the screen, this is the demo that you're seeing. The gentleman in the orange is in North Carolina, and that drone that is being deployed is in Houston, Texas. It will rise to the allowed height and go straight to the scene. So if you look to the right of that map, I'm sorry, to the right of the video is the map that the officer has deployed that drone to. And as you see, the battery's at 78%. It's at an altitude of 249 feet and is traveling at 21 miles per hour. So here in Forest Park, we're plagued with the railroad that sometime a train will occupy for hours at a time. This will allow us to avoid that and not be slowed down. Freeze up on us? Okay. And at 250 feet in the air, if it is an emergency that we need to investigate, that drone has the technology and the capability of zooming in to actually read the decal on the license plate. So it'll be a great investigative tool as well. I'll answer any questions if there are any.
Councilwoman James?
So the drones are not owned by the city. It's a service that we're purchasing. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, and then it's only I'm just asking questions based upon, privacy concerns.
Absolutely.
So it's only deployed on 911 emergencies. It's not like, deployed randomly. It's just on.
That is correct. We could also use it for investigative surveillance, or for instance, if officers are investigating a narcotics complaint, we can do so. But it won't be, there will be checks and balances in place
I was gonna
to
say you
when
had to
that
have like
system
a
is
search
utilized.
warrant or something, right?
For surveillance, no, but if we're looking for something in specific, a search warrant will be obtained. So we'll definitely take the necessary measures in the event a search warrant is needed.
Okay, thank you, sir.
But as you can tell in the video, the drone flies straight. It's not looking down as it responds to the actual call for service. It will only start to look down once it starts to give the officers a 360 surveillance.
Councilman
pleasure.
Vaughn,
No brainer.
Councilman Gutierrez.
No, I actually saw at the GMA convention that I went to last year, one of the class on that we were taking a class on law enforcement, like that I took, and they showed a sample of these drones, and it was amazing. Like just seeing it in the response time, and like you mentioned, the safety, that when they get there, they already kind of know what to expect. My question was, related to privacy, but you answered that to Councilwoman James. So,
Yeah.
whatever, whatever way we can support you, Chief. How far are we from owning our own drones, and not having to pay someone else?
It's the technology that you're really paying for, and the storage. So it's not necessarily the drones are a low cost. It's the capabilities of the drone is what you're paying for, the technology behind it.
Okay.
Councilwoman Wells.
Yes, I think it's a great idea, Chief. I definitely support it. My only question was, and Mr. Clark answered it, like, where does it come from? But it's on the building.
So it's going to be, so we're looking at placing one on top of City Hall just because of the location of City Hall, and as well as the fire department, either at Anvil Block or on Jonesboro Road. We're still in discussion with that. And it will actually sit in its own charging case. So at the click of a button, this device will open up and go from there, and it charges in that device as well.
Councilman Mears.
Yes, ma'am, I got a I'm for this. It's a good idea, but I'm curious about the liability part of it. Who is the city gonna be responsible for mishaps, or the company that we use?
I'll defer that question to the attorney.
Okay.
So under the agreement, they were first going to require the city to indemnify them. But I negotiated that out because under state law, you cannot agree to indemnify. So the company itself, if there was any malfunction, and it was solely the responsibility of the company, that they would face liability for that purpose.
Thank you very
That's
much.
good.
Yes. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Item 8, council discussion and approval to purchase 2 canines and to enter into an agreement between the owners and the Forest Park Police Department. Background and history. The Forest Park Police Department operates 24/7, 365 days a year with 4 shifts managing service calls. Currently, 2 canines are on duty for 2 of these shifts, performing tasks such as search and rescue for missing persons, detecting illegal narcotics, and aiding in criminal apprehension. Outside of the normal work shift, our current canines serve as a community building resource by participating in educational programs in schools. The department seeks approval to acquire 2 more canines to occupy the 2 vacant shifts. This will allow us to have a canine available 24/7, 365 days a year. Officers DeAndre Hunt and Jamal Hunter, the handlers, intend to sell their canines to the department for a symbolic $1. The department will cover the cost related to training, equipment, and health care for the canines, with officers committing to a 2-year commitment for any and all training expenses. Yes, sir.
Good evening again. So currently we only have 2 canines, and canines are a valuable tool, especially when we're utilizing them in the event we have a search and rescue, a missing child, or someone who suffers from like illness such as dementia. This allows us to deploy a dog to quickly get on a scent, as well as utilize this dog for law enforcement purposes. Behind me, you'll see K9 Karma. You'll bring in Karma. And he's being handled by this is Officer Hunter. And behind him is Officer Hunt. So these two officers have actually purchased the dogs to save the city money from having to purchase these dogs, the canines. And he will be trained to detect narcotics, lost persons, articles, etc. Karma is a Dutch German Shepherd. And Officer Hunt's dog is not with us tonight, but that will be a Belgian Malinois. And I'm open for any questions if you all have any.
Councilwoman James?
$1?
Yes, so
Okay.
a fully trained canine will
More
cost
than
anywhere
that.
from $10,000 to $15,000, and these
Yeah, but
officers has invested.
Can we
in their
give them
canine.
more than $1? That's my. I mean, okay, thank you. I appreciate it, but I think we can give them more than $1.
No, we don't give them, give them what they asked for.
Councilman Antoine?
God bless you guys. Thanks for giving.
Thank you.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Oh, thank you. Like that.
Councilwoman Wells?
Yes, thank y'all so much. And Councilwoman James, you trying to get money for an event? We'll give you money. Oh, thank you, Chief.
Councilman Mears?
Can they fly a drone?
I believe Karma might be able to push a button
I
and get it up
believe
there.
so too. Thank you. I like that very much.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor,